Okay guys, all right, so we've covered a lot today, okay? Covered a lot today. But let's start from the beginning, okay? We started off with an exercise, right, where we did an exercise where we channeled some energy through us, okay? Right? The exercise that we did, where before we did that exercise, we started off with two people, one person in a combat stance, the other person pushes the opponent, and they notice what they notice. And what you said was, it was easier to be pushed, there was more weight shift when you were pushed, your structure was broken, and there was more yielding energy, so you felt like you was being thrown a bit more and that energy was being absorbed more physically, okay? But then we did this light energy exercise, right? Where you channeled energy right through you, right? To you, through you, from the heavens down to the core of the earth. And something shifted. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Put your hands up or say, shout out yes if you agree with me.
Yes.
Okay, so unanimous, right? And what you all said was you felt more grounded. You felt like there was more absorbent, you were more absorbent in the way the energy was being managed within you internally. You maintained your structure better. You had a stronger base. You were more resilient, right, to the push. You had a stronger foundation and you had more stability and a lower center of gravity, okay? Everyone agree with that, yeah?
Yes.
So we made that the basis for everything that we did today. So I asked you to maintain that state throughout the exercises that we did today, right? So we covered slipping, ducking, air cover, bob and weave, roll back and roll away, okay? Now in all of those techniques that we covered today, the one thing, right, that was consistent was you remained stationary. In other words, you did not move. Agree? Okay? And as a consequence, actually just come into the room a bit, right? Oh, okay. So the one thing that's consistent is that you remained stationary, you remained on the spot, okay? Now, what do you think that whole exercise was all about? One word.
Nucleus.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Well done, Johnny. Right? Right? Awesome. Bellissimo. That's brilliant, right? So what I wanted to show you was the nucleus. Bruce Lee talked about you start from the nucleus and then expand outwardsly, right? So you start from your base, you start from your core. And if you was to say there was one specific effect that you felt once you did that exercise, what would you say it was? That you felt throughout all of this movement?
Balance.
Okay, balance. Present. What else? Grounded. Okay. Right, so these are all the kind of words, right, that talk to this, right? And I like to use the word centering, okay? Or I almost spelt that the American way there. I don't know, you know, I think it's, I actually...
R after E.
That's the American way, right? Centering for our American friends,
Yeah.
all right? And then it's...
Center, R-E.
Is it this way? Anyway, I'm having a bit of a spelling moment, all right? Anyway, it's about becoming centered, all right? This was the whole point. Now, if I was to say or use another word, you feel magnetized to the ground, okay? So all of these movements, slipping, ducking, air cover, bob and weave, roll back, roll away, you should feel like you're magnetized to the ground, okay? Right, so the definition of centered, right, is a person who's well balanced, grounded, confident, composed, calibrated, and equipoised, right? So when we practice martial arts, we want to be in a centered state. So if we get into our nucleus, we want to be in a centered state, okay? No matter what we do, okay? Because the moment you are not centered, right, you are struggling with being pushed over more easily. You're struggling with your weight being flopping around everywhere, right? So it causes imbalance, right? You find that your structure is wobbly or broken, right? You might find that you're wasting energy as you're moving around. You might not even realize that, okay? So we want to make sure that we avoid all of that. So no matter what you do when you're practicing martial arts, you must remain centered. You must remain and start always at the nucleus. And the idea is to switch that nucleus on straight away. The moment you don't switch that nucleus on, you're going to suffer from all this stuff, right? And remember, you're easier to be pushed around, yeah? Right? You're easier to be pushed around. And what you'll find is these movements there, you'll find a lot more difficult to do because you'll find that imbalance and your center of gravity starts to sway outside, and all of a sudden now you're losing your balance and you're having to step, okay? And you can't afford to do that. So we need to remain centered, we need to stay at the nucleus, okay? So we are more grounded, we are more absorbed, we maintain a better structure, we have a stronger base, we are more resilient, we have a stronger foundation, we are stable, and we have a lower center of gravity, okay? Bruce used to describe, or how I describe Bruce is, when you're in combat, you start from a tranquil lake, right? Really steady, stable, totally calm. Then you erupt like a volcano, and then you return back to a tranquil lake, okay? Now, you must possess that ability to go from one to the other and back to the other, not involuntarily, right, with a wobbly pushover structure, but with composure, right, with balance, right? That's going to give you that confidence, is going to give you calibration, right? That calibration, so you'll be able to compute what's going on a lot more accurately, with a lot more precision, right? And on top of that, you'll be able to compute time, distance, speed in order to meet your opponents where they are or where they will be. You know the difference between a good footballer and a great footballer? A good footballer passes the ball to where the footballer is now. A great footballer passes the ball to where the footballer is going to be, right? We want to be great martial artists, so we want to intercept our opponent where they're going to be, not where they are right now, because they're not going to be there if you start now. All right? So they're going to move. So Bruce very much said, start from the nucleus, right? Start from the nucleus, develop your core, develop your center, develop your groundedness, right? And then you start to move to the limbs. And then you start to move to footwork. And then you start to add time, distance, speed, okay? Right, with the tools that you employ and the footwork that you employ, because now you start to expand from the nucleus outwards. Because if you start with all of that, you don't know where your center is. How are you going to know where your center is? You've got no idea, right? So we must always start the nucleus. Now the thing is, the most potent daily life application on this is right in front of your eyes, okay? Is right in front of your eyes. Any endeavor that you embark on in life, whatever challenge you might face, whatever adversity you might face, whatever obstacles you might face, okay? If you start at your nucleus, you're going to start centered. You're going to start in a state of being calm, collected, composed, calibrated, and confident. If you can employ all of those C's, all those C words, right? Then you're going to be better equipped to deal with what you need to deal with. You're going to be better equipped to put your best foot forwards first. Because if you're not, you're going to start wobbly right from the beginning, right? In other words, you're going to allow imbalanced emotions, right, to enter you. Emotion is energy in motion. So energy in motion, imbalanced energy in motion, or imbalanced emotions, or what people might describe as negative emotions, will create chaos in your mind. So if you've got chaos, right, because you have no stability, you've got no structure, you're not absorbent, you're not resilient, right, it's going to put your center off, okay? And if you are off center, as people normally refer to as, then you're not really going to be presenting your best side. You're not really going to be putting your best foot forwards. And the best time to know whether you are in this state or in this state is when there's intense pressure, okay? Because intense pressure, which is what I say is the worst. So you'll find your best at the worst. But if you find your worst at the worst, then you're here. But if you find your best at the worst, then you're here. That means you're prepared to deal with whatever life throws at you. You've done a physical exercise on grounding, centering, getting back to your nucleus, right? From an energetic standpoint, this is a whole topic that I'm not going to go into right now, right? Energy, centering, dantians, and so on. I'm just throwing some words out there that will help you connect some of that. If you're interested, we can have another conversation. But if you start to center yourself right from the beginning, everything else will operate from a stable point, okay? Rather than starting in the expanse, you start the nucleus, all right? So just think about this. Think about where in life, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life or anywhere in between, where you might find that you haven't really put your best side forwards. You haven't really presented your best self, okay? You could have done something better. You might have self-criticized yourself, right? Maybe even berated yourself because, damn it, I could have done that better. Oh, I should have done this, could have done this, would have done this, right? You know, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? You heard about the Buddhist monk. He said, shoulda, coulda, woulda, Buddha. Right? But, so, anyway, my point being, right, if you've ever been in that position where you felt like critiquing yourself, or you could have done something better, or something wasn't at the level that you wanted it to, your standard, then you're off center, okay? Start on center. Start with the nucleus. Always start with the nucleus, because the nucleus is going to bring that calm collectedness, okay? And that spawns, right, that composure, that calibration, that confidence, right? And allow that to seep in everything you do. And just remember this, right? How you do anything is how you do everything, all right? So if you find that you're anxious and nervous, right, before going into a meeting, or before going to talk to your colleagues, or talking to your manager, or your boss, or whatever walk of life you might be in, your teacher, your invigilator, your examiner, your lecturer, whoever it is, right? Your mom and dad, your guardian, your parent, your elder sibling, whatever it is, whoever it is. If you feel anxious, you're not centered, all right? You're not centered, because that is wobbly, okay? That's wobbly, okay? Right? Right? We don't want to be wobbly. We want to be centered, right? At the nucleus, right? So if you ever feel that way, that's your best indicator that you're here and not here. So switch it on. And remember when we did the light exercise earlier on, the one thing I said to you was like a laser pointer. If you press that button, that laser light is now going for thousands of feet, right? It's just going, maybe even infinitely, right? Right? Because apparently light just keeps going, right? So it's just traveling, right? But it's instant. If you can switch and get grounded in a press of a laser pointer button, and you allow that light to go whoom, without getting tense but still staying relaxed, super absorbent and flexible and elastic and everything else, all your plyometric, abilities are there, your explosive power, you've got everything on tap. Just imagine how much potential you can tap into. And that's what we're talking about today, okay? We're talking about tapping into that from the nucleus. Everything starts from the nucleus, all right? Okay, which is why I kept rolling back to, when you train, make sure your opponent steps to you first, right? Make them step to you, right? And that way you've got more time to pick up what's happening and then to respond intelligently. In life, create distance with whatever's challenging you so you can see it coming, right? When you can see it coming, you can put an intelligent response together for that thing that you need to deal with. But if you're too close to it, you're going to get caught out, you're going to get sucker punched, okay? So on that note, I just want you to be mindful on how to employ the nucleus and the art of centering in anything you do, all right? Combat, daily life, all right? Thank you.